Alright, today I'm going to show you how to install heated seat inserts in a Chevy Volt. This is a 2013 Chevy Volt, and this would be the same procedures for any 2011 to 2015 Chevy Volt. First you want to slide the seats forward, and then on the one side there's a little plastic clip that pops off. I just showed you how to do that. Pulls off from the rear and kind of clips in on the front side. These bolts on the rear sides of the seats are really stuck in there. The factory uses Loctite, and so I'm just building up this little leverage apparatus, I guess, with some pieces of wood that I'm sliding into the seat rail, so that when I use this big breaker bar that I've got some leverage to push up against. And so I'll break it loose here in a second, and then I'll eventually get my impact wrench on there. My impact wrench is just electric, and it's not quite as robust as I would like it to be. So I just broke that side loose. I'm gonna break this side loose. So yeah, you just kind of wedge some wood in between, the side of the armrest there and the end of your wrench. I ended up putting one more piece of wood in there and accidentally nudged the camera, and so you kind of miss it. Yeah, right there. So I'll break that loose and get my impact wrench out and zip those off real quickly. Those bolts are Torx 50, so they're pretty big Torx bits. Here's my impact wrench, and yep, comes right out of there. So this is where I kind of screwed up. I should have used that lever right there above my hand to raise the seat. That would have given me more room to get this plastic piece up and out of the way. I forgot that those seats raise from that lever right there. So what I'm trying to get to is the seat belt tensioner sensor, and I'll show you here in a second what that looks like. There's a little plug or tab that you gotta lift up, that little orange tab, you lift that up and it unlocks the plug harness, and that pulls right out of there. So you gotta remove that because that's clipped to the bottom of the seat, the harness is, and then that seatbelt tensioner is attached to the seatbelt harness. So that stays in the car while that wire harness stays on the seat. So pop that loose, and then there's another Torx 50 bit that's holding that piece on there. So this is where it gets a little tricky. You want to put the seat all the way back, and you kind of lift forward and up and get the front hooks of the seat rail out of the frame of the car. So I'm lifting up the front end now. And you'll actually remove the seat from the rear door. But first, you gotta unplug the airbag harness. So I just unplug the airbag harness, and you gotta take that tensioner off. And now we'll pull the seat out from the rear. And you want to make sure the seat is moved back, because otherwise the seat rails will catch the back of that the rear seat. So this one comes out pretty easy, but the passenger side, I forget to do that, and I'll show you. I get hung up on the back seat. It takes a little while to get out, but this side I get out pretty quickly. And these seats are pretty heavy, so be careful with your back as you are bending over and twisting and lifting these seats out. Don't want to hurt your back. passenger side, I had out for a camping trip, and so these came out real easy with my impact wrench. So I was able to pull those bolts out real easily without using the breaker bar this time. There's that plastic clip, comes off. Tight, so the first time you break them loose, they are really tight. The factory says to not reuse those bolts, but I have used them this way. So again, I should have raised the seat up first to get to this plastic piece on the side here. It looks like, yeah, right now I am disconnecting the airbag harness. So airbag harness is disconnected, and now I'll fold the seat back down and get at that seatbelt tensioner on the side of the car, which is another Torx 50 and a sensor that needs to be unplugged. But yeah, I'm trying to set it up a little higher so I can get to that side panel, and I should have just raised it up with the seat lever itself. So that just kind of pulls off from the rear and then slides forward on the seatbelt tensioner. And here I am disconnecting the plug. And then I gotta hit that Torx 50 to take off that tensioner, and that'll just slide right out of that plastic casing. And that bolt stays put, it stays within that tensioner. So this is where I screwed up too. So you could see that seat rail was pushed, the seat was pushed all the way forward. And now when I'm trying to remove the seat, the rear of the seat rail is hooking onto the bottom of the rear cushion there, and it gets stuck. So push the seat all the way back before you try to remove it. Or maybe at least in the middle, maybe not all the way in the back. Now the seat rail is really far forward, and so it kind of got hooked onto the roof line. So just kind of get in the middle before you take it out. So we got both seats out. Now it's time to take this apart, and this is by far the longest section of the video. These seat covers do not have hog rings, so that's nice. However, and I'll show you later, but there are these plastic rails sewed to the seat covers, and those plastic rails or plastic ridges snap down into metal rings, or metal, not rings, but metal like V-clamps. V-clips inside the seat cushion. So that's what's holding the seat cover down on those creases. So they're really, really tight, and you got to use two hands to break them loose, and maybe even a screwdriver would possibly help, because they're pretty stiff metal holding those clips in. And to note, the passenger side is a little bit more difficult. The passenger side has a a sensor in the seat cushion portion that lets the car know if someone's sitting there, and so it will turn off the airbag or keep the airbag on depending on how much weight is sitting in that seat. And so that bottom seat cushion doesn't come off very easily. You'd have to disengage some of the wiring harness. So my friend actually took care of the passenger seat while I took care of the driver's seat, and he had a little bit more trouble with that passenger side. You gotta take apart the whole surrounding of the bottom seat cushion in order to get underneath there and get room to insert the heated seating pad. So right here, my friend Jordan has shown us how the seat covers are clipped into the seat cushion. That plastic rail clips down into those little V clips, and like I said, they're really, really tight. He can't disengage it with just one hand, so definitely takes two hands and or a screwdriver. We also decided to bring these seats inside to work on them on this table, and that made it a lot easier too, especially how long it took to disengage all of these seat cover clips. So it wasn't quite as hard on our back. I'll link down below what seat cover or heated seat kit that I went with. I bought it on Amazon. It was like $25 each or $26 each, and it comes with a switch and wire harness. So, and I've used them for the last week, this whole past week, and I've really enjoyed them. They work really, really well. For inserting the seat inserts, we marked them with a black marker, so we knew exactly right where those clips, those V clips, would push up through the heated seat inserts. And so we marked them with a black marker and then cut slits so those little V clips would poke through. That's how we centered and kind of gauged and fit those seat inserts appropriately without cutting through any of the wires or elements. You actually don't have to take off this back cover. That was a mistake. I didn't know I needed to, or I could skip. So you only have to take apart the bottom portion of the lower cover, but this does reveal my piece of 2x4, and you might be wondering why I have a 2x4 in my seat. That is my cheap lumber support. So I put that 2x4 in there, and it gives me some nice lumbar support. It's a little barbaric, but it works pretty well, and it's not too hard. It's just firm enough. So give it a try. It's a 2x4 measuring 10.5 inches long. It fits right in there perfectly. I made a video on that on my channel, so you can check that out later. And when it comes to the seat back, you really don't need to take apart as much as I did. You really just have to take apart the bottom part, not the whole entire back. And you'll see that on the passenger side that my friend is working on later. And then there is a hole in the seat cushion that you can run the wire through, so that works out pretty darn well. I spent way too much time on mine on the seat back. So when you go to the seat back, watch the passenger side that my friend Jordan is working on, you pretty much just have to take apart the bottom part, and then you can slip your hand right up the back, and it's just Velcro. There's no clips into those V metal clips. It's just Velcro. So the back is really easy if you want to end with that or start with that. It does help to, it was a little easier to slip my hand up there with the seat pushed all the way back. It gives you a little bit more room to slide it up in there. And there's some adhesive on the seat inserts, those heated seat inserts. So once you get it kind of in place, you want to peel off that adhesive. And then also, I just cut little slits for those little V clips to sink through or slip up through. And then I secured that little plastic rail from the seat cover into those clips, and I didn't have to cut through any of the heating element, and so that was pretty nice as well. And I fed the wire harnesses back to the rear of the seat, and so the seat cushion goes up the rear, and then the back one goes out the bottom, and there's a hole there as well. And then I used a 3/4 inch drill bit to drill a hole, and then I had to use a Dremel to get it a little bit larger. And then here is the button installed, and it looks pretty nice right above the seat raising and lowering lever, or right next to it. And then I actually tapped into the OEM wiring harness. And so the two big red and black wires coming into that plug are the OEM heated seat wires. It's attached to a 25 amp fuse in the back of the car on the driver's side. And so make sure that fuse is there. And if it is, you can go ahead and test the wires, make sure they're hot. What's interesting is that those wires are hot at all times. And so you do need to make sure you remember to turn off the switch, otherwise the seat will stay on while the car is off. And so that's one little caveat, but I really didn't have to run much wire at all. And then I tapped into the passenger side from the aftermarket harness. So here it is, it's all done. It looks pretty nice, pretty OEM. The original OEM buttons are up on the dash here, but I like it. Here's my heated steering wheel from a Chevy Sonic. I installed that. That was one of the first modifications I did. So yeah, I'm really happy and pleased with this. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.